Well, I mean, on the first one, I think yes, definitely. There, we do have a kind of a federation, a federal system that is still evolving. It has been under, in great trouble. The highest, the sort of worst part was 1971 when the majority of Pakistani population, the Bengalis, left us and became Bangladesh. And there is a problem in Baloch. They have genuine grievances, but it's a very complex. And there's also the rise of Islamic extremism in that province. So it just makes it very complicated. But I think the the issue is that that those issues in Sindh and Baloch require a more workable, more equitable federation, and that's a political process which Pakistan's political parties are trying to sort of get there. But on this issue of the religious growing intolerance, on the influence and impact of Islamic extremism, is something that now requires a mega kind of a societal, systematic operation and changing of narratives, changing the direction of the country, and that is, a task that has been delayed. Somebody asked that whether there was political will. I think there is political will. I mean, the majority of Pakistanis do not approve of, the brutal violence and the brutalities. But I think at the same time, what has happened is that many of them, especially the youth, have been kind of indoctrinated to accept it as kind of, not fully kosher, but kind of, well, shit happens. Sorry for the bad language. So this is the worrying part. And that has to be changed. Violence and human indignity, denial of human rights, denial of citizenship has to be an unacceptable act in any society. And this is also very important for Pakistan's future democratic path, since we are at NED. So because if you have societal instability growing, if the minorities and full rights are not equally applied and granted by the state and constitution, then the democratic process is going to be flawed and going to be discredited in the long term. And so, for the political elites, they really have to rethink their strategy. On pressurizing Pakistan, I mean, really, I can't really say much. I mean, I have to go back one of the days, okay? Yeah. This is live webcast. So I think that I do agree that not enough engagement takes place. There's a lot of pressure, from short-term things, Haqqani network, this network, that militant, that leader, OBL, blah, blah. But I think a more meaningful engagement, there's still room for that. I do not think that by penalizing or sort of designing punitive measures against the country, you can get results, because that's not going to happen. It's a real world. About the floods, I just want to correct that. I think your perception needs a little revision, because a lot of aid did go to the flood affectees. And, given the scale of those floods, where almost 1/4 or 1/5 of Pakistan's land mass was underwater, it was a remarkable feat to restore and rehabilitate livelihoods. But yes, the U.S. aid predominantly has gone to the military. I mean, those are facts. And I think that is for the U.S. Congress and U.S. authorities to review and see. Pakistan's land mass was underwater. It was a remarkable feat to restore and rehabilitate livelihoods. But yes, the U.S. aid predominantly has gone to the military. I mean, those are facts. And I think that is for the U.S. Congress and U.S. authorities to review and see.
As far as
to suggest.
Well, just to go back to the point I made about this designating of Pakistan as a CPC is one way that we think it would help refocus and elevate this issue in the bilateral conversation. It's not a punitive act, but it's one that's required by Congress, and the longer that it goes unmade, then we think it puts the United States in a hypocritical position.
Is there a movement to do that within the Congress?
There has been. It's usually tied to the release of the State Department's Religious Freedom Report. So that came out in September, I believe, and they made some CPC decisions. Pakistan did not make the list. So it's a conversation that we've had about how to encourage the State Department to make that decision. But there's some other easier steps too, like this commitment to interfaith harmony. We've suggested that the State Department make this part of the strategic dialogue. Why not have a strategic dialogue, with all these other baskets on economics and security and energy and on interfaith harmony? Pakistan is unique in that it had a federal cabinet position. Now it's a state minister position on this. This is a way to extend a hand to say, Pakistan, you're doing something that we appreciate. How can we build it up? I'm reminded when the new Minister for Religious Affairs, which now houses the interfaith work, his first trip abroad was to Saudi Arabia. And he, I can't remember if he met with, it was a Saudi government official or the Imam of Mecca, but he asked for Saudi government assistance to do interfaith harmony work. I think that's something, if the Pakistanis were to ask the United States, I would hope we would leap at that chance. We have so much to bring to that, and we could be such a natural partner with the Pakistanis on that in a constructive way. So, we're saying a mix of things, some good old-fashioned pressure, but also bolstering those people who want to do the right thing. We are unequivocally against the breakup of Pakistan, so I'll put that. That's no. I do not agree with that at all. To be very clear, I think as far as this work, though, it's important that you have people like Raza, who almost paid with his life for this work, and
In every country there are people who are paying.
yeah, well, I think it's a little different in Pakistan, and I think it's a matter of how do we help those people, help those folks who want to see a constructive, progressive, stable future for this critically important country of almost 200 million people, to reclaim that vision that Jenna laid out of diversity and inclusivity. And I'm reminded that the white bar on the Pakistani flag, it's mainly green with the crescent and the star, but has the white bar. The white bar was placed there to represent religious minorities. So, like, the very founding of the country has that integrated into its DNA. I'm afraid that DNA is being pushed out because of these other forces we've talked about. But I think we can't, I've been criticized because of my writings of being anti-Pakistan. And I've said, if I was anti-Pakistan, I wouldn't do anything. I would just let these forces continue to play out. I'm pro-Pakistan. I want to see a strong, stable Pakistan that can respect the rights of all its citizens.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I think all of us up here are pretty much against the break of Pakistan. In fact, we want to see Pakistan succeed, and raising these issues is not to criticize Pakistan as a country or anything like that, but just to ask for basic protections for its citizens, and ultimately these are questions and these are problems that the Pakistanis themselves have to deal with and settle, and we can provide whatever support. We have limited leverage. And, as our friend from the embassy stated, there are a lot of people in Pakistan that are working on these issues. Civil society is very active, politicians as well. But there's this issue of impunity, and we saw assassinations of politicians, Salman Taseer, of Shahbaz Bhatti, and journalists who speak out, like our friend Raza Rumi, are attacked, and lawyers defending blasphemy cases, Rashid Rehman, who's someone we had worked with, just gunned down with impunity. So there's a chilling effect on society, I guess the big question for me is, like, how can we raise these issues? How can we strengthen those voices in Pakistan? Because the other side has no compunction about using violent means, and even Shias who are being slaughtered are showing a lot of restraint. Actually, I'm surprised, and we have to give credit to that, but also find useful, constructive ways to support them.
Yeah.
So
I just a quick addition to, well, thank you for obviously, I think that first of all, this getting into why Pakistan was created, this is a bit debate, been there, done that. It's been just, and Indians love to raise it because there is a whole perception of Pakistan being this quote unquote artificial country and leaving India. But those events of 1940s were very problematic. Muslims did feel under the leadership of Mr. Jinnah that not just their religious but also their economic and political rights would not get the due share if there were no mutually agreed constitutional arrangements, and that process of negotiation and bargaining actually collapsed in the late 1940s, and hence partition took place. I mean, Mr. Jinnah had agreed to, for the record, on the cabinet mission plan in 1946, which actually did not want partition of India but wanted more provincial autonomy, and by the Indian Congress actually rejected that cabinet mission plan by the British. So partition became a kind of it was both an accident, kind of of history, both and inevitable, but also largely, it does represent the aspirations of a large number of people who wanted more guarantees and freedoms. So, I think I think this whole idea of Pakistan being this artificial, it's a country of 200 million people. So please do think about us, when you say it should break up, it should go through more turbulence and all of that, and it's a country which is struggling. I think a lot of countries in the world, Pakistan is a young country, are going through this phase. I mean, by highlighting all these issues, I'm not saying that Pakistan is like a kind of a figment from a horror film. But no, but actually, it has to be restructured, it has to be improved, it has to be better, mediated for its young future, because the majority of Pakistanis are young people now. And but to add to what you said, I think I do take your point that, this moment of, in this quest for a Islamic identity, obviously it was taken too far by Pakistan's elites. And there you do have a point, and I take it. I think Mr. Jinnah tried to correct it on the 11th of August in 1947 when he gave a clear secular vision for Pakistan. He said that, you would be free to go to your places of worship and your religious identity would cease to exist and you would be an equal citizen of a country. Sadly, this was not implemented or taken forward, and that's the kind of tragedy we are dealing with. Yeah, if I may quickly respond to you. I think, no, you're absolutely right. This is a major challenge. I mean, Ox has highlighted some of the issues, and there are many studies and many reports. There was a report by a Christian group that also looked at the intolerance. But I think what is there has been the response from society is also lacking. I think that's a tragic part. We keep on saying the state did this, General Zia did, the military did this, but the societies, intelligentsia, the political parties, the intellectuals, the educationists, they all also have kindly played along. So they are equally culpable in my view, and I think there has to be this major shift in that direction. It is coming now. More and more people, especially the young people, are objecting to it. If you read Pakistani press, and you look at the popular blogs, there's these young people in their 20s writing, well, what are we thinking, what are we saying, what are we teaching, and why it must change. And that's a positive sign. And I think there are countries which have reformed and improved their curricula. So many examples from Latin America and from other parts of the world are there where societies do take the initiative and show kind of resolve.
Great. Maybe you can go this side, Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Anderson. I'm with the Center for International Private Enterprise. My question is, the recent protests led by Imran Khan and it did seem to be, there's somewhat a positive outcome of these, that there was a heightened awareness or political awareness among youth, it seems, as well as maybe steps towards youth also wanting a democracy that delivers a little bit better. Do you see any opportunity right now with this sort of heightened expectation of youth to somehow channel their energy towards increasing tolerance?
Well, I mean, I think, yes, I think you're right. There were certain positive aspects, particularly this huge political participation by young people and their imagination being fired up with the idea of change and changing the system. And then also, Mr. Qadri, who was, a partner of Imran Khan in those protests, is a kind of a relatively more moderate cleric. I mean, in my personal opinion, clerics are all problematic. This is a very, we do it for the purposes of, policy, etc. But clerics are a problem everywhere. So, but he's definitely somebody who shuns violence. He's in tune with Sufi Islam. He's rejects in public the Shia targeting. So he's a kind of a good role model. And I think the allegations that Pakistan Army was supporting these two, well, if it was, I'm very happy because they were for a change supporting not a Salafi or a Wahhabi, but a more moderate cleric. So all welcome there. But I think that change, sadly, the opportunity is mixed because Mr. Imran Khan, who runs the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, which I mentioned earlier, in that province, the textbooks are being revised again to insert some of the stuff that was deleted by the earlier, more secular government. But I think over time, and that is one of Pakistan's greatest asset and greatest hope for change, is that the median age in Pakistan now is about 22, 23 years old. It's a totally young country. It's a new country. And there's lots of energy, there's lots of unrest, and what you see in Pakistan is also that pulsating kind of desire to do away with the old structures. And I hope that in this quest for change, in this quest for transformation, some of these more radical and worrying aspects will also be undone. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm glad you brought this issue. I mean, I've been to the Chittagong Hills, by the way, and I know the tension and all of that. But I think, while we were discussing Pakistan, it is also important to note and highlight that there is a minorities problem across South Asia as a region. It is not just Pakistan. Perhaps Pakistan is a more highlighted, more kind of severe version with all the legal systems in operation. But whatever is happening in India, in Nepal, in Bangladesh, even in Bhutan, is quite shocking. So I mean, this merits a separate discussion. But I do would like to raise this that I think the problem has been that a lot of these new states, new nationalisms, have not been able to define the idea of citizenship and the idea of how, like the people in the hill tracts in your country also have some similar demands. They also complain of exclusion, of marginalization, etc. And it is at the end of the day, it has to do with the idea of citizenship, how it's imagined, how it's distributed, how it's negotiated, and how the state actually enables full rights of any individual. And that's where these countries are still battling. Even in India, you see, very common occurrences, whether it's the Christians or the Muslims or even the low caste Hindus. And similarly, in Bangladesh, you hear of many incidents now. They are growing, so there's a regional dimension to it. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I'm not trying to whitewash or present an overly optimistic picture, but I think the reality is that, as I mentioned earlier, in a country of 180 to 200 million people, it is so difficult to generalize that the public is either silent or complicit, because there are, I mean, if you look at social media, which is more, digital media, and we were talking about it, Wilson, before this event. I mean, that's a kind of platform which is now being used by the younger people in Pakistan, and there are nearly 30 million internet users. And if you look at the reactions and if you look at the condemnation widespread, it does give you hope. It does show you that there are lot of people out there who may be afraid, who may not be empowered enough, but they do feel that this has to end. As regards the politicians, yes, they're afraid. I mean, clearly, after Taseer's killing, Mr. Shahbaz Bhatti being gunned down for wanting to amend the blasphemy law, there is a lot of fear, and the politicians have misused Islam to gain political power. That's also a reality of Pakistan. But at the same time, there is now a realization. If this genie out of the bottle is not handled, then it's going to consume all the ruling elites as well, as events elsewhere have shown.
Have they done anything to Salman Taseer's murder?
He has been punished, and he has been sentenced to death, but he's gone into appeal at the High Court. So, but he's waiting in the jail.
Or at least
Yeah.
done with it.
Yeah,